Hey guys, so a number of you have been asking me for design videos on cars. Not that I'm a car designing expert or anything, but we're going to play around with this idea real quick. So I do pay attention to some automotive designers and how they go about things a little bit, but it's fairly simple and straightforward a lot of times the way they work. They might start with some line art, and I'm going to use a program called Lazy Nizumi for brush smoothing. It's a little program that looks something like this, and so I'm just going to be using subtle or massive smoothing, depends on how I'm feeling at the moment, but medium round brush, it's not hard, it's not soft, it's in the middle, it's a pressure sensitive size, opacity. That's pretty much all there is to it. It's nothing real fancy. So, um, new layer. And so there's exercises to warm up. You can, if you know you're waking up for the day or whatever, and you're trying to do some sketching and drawing, you can do the little lines between two dots. Try to take them to the extents of the screen as well. If you got a tablet, it's helpful. And also, you can do like little cross sections, put evenly spaced dots and try to make perfect little circles if you want, or just freehand some circles and try to warm up this way. Maybe do them at angles if you're going to do perspective or isometric drawings. You can do that as well. Next up, lines. Just practice doing some lines for a bit. And so the idea is that you have two wheels. You're going to do some contour lines through the wheels to make a vehicle, right? So it'll be like something like this, maybe, and you can start to come up with some ideas for vehicles this way, right? That's what we're going to do in this one. The wheels actually distract me, but I'm going to leave that up to you. You could just, make perfect circles and duplicate them and set up a wheelbase if you want and say like this is the bottom of the vehicle. You can use lines for the ground level, whatever, and start drawing some lines through this area and try to get some interesting flows going, some different things like this, perhaps, right? But the wheels do distract me. So instead, I like just looking at the lines and just seeing what reads well. So if I do something like that, if you do a line up here, you could say this is kind of like the front of a vehicle, perhaps. And then you can do something like that. Maybe the wheel goes here, maybe the wheel goes here. You get the idea. And so you're not going to hit all of these right off the bat. It's going to take a little while to get something kind of interesting going. You get a kind of a flow that you like, you can add to it and start to do little variations on it as well. Stuff like that, maybe. Like you want to do something like that, right? So that'd be like the door area. Obviously, we would have a hood. So if we want to add some more lines, we can do that. A wheel perhaps later on. Maybe do a wheel over here. Maybe not as big, or maybe a little bit bigger. Try to get it right. All right, cool. So we got something going at least. And so the front of the vehicle, you can try different angles for the front of the vehicle. You want to go backwards with it, straight, lean in, whatever. If you want to try doing some cuts like this, you do some things like that perhaps as well. So play around with it, see what works for you. Try different ideas for the rear out as well. You can do like a full back like that, or you could do splits or whatever. You can do all kinds of different little shapes there. Just to figure out what you're doing at least. This one I think needs something like maybe something more like that, maybe. Yeah, almost. Let's bring that down and then back. Okay. So very quick, very fast, easy way of doing things basically. You'll end up with all kinds of car ideas before you know it. Too many to count. And yeah, just keep going for it. You can add additional details later on if you want to add splitter. That's fine. If you want to do some rocker panels, you can do those. Just change the shapes and the forms as you see fit. You want to add a little detail in the middle here. Add a little splitter up front. Okay, you can do that. Maybe you want a wing. Who knows? A lot of times you want to like accentuate the lines for the wing area. Looks nice, anyways. So you can just sketch out these ideas super fast. Think about your door panels as well. Think about where you're going to place door panels, windows, all those fun things, gas caps, whatever else, whatever little details you want in here. Think about how you might do the wheels or the rims. I'm not too focused on that right now because we're going to head to 3D here in a second. I'll show you how to get started on it 3D at least. And the wheels are like the last importance to me. It's the main body panel lines that I care about the most. So on that like a El Camino look, that'd be kind of cool. Drop that off in the middle there. Um, Something about this just isn't sitting right with me. I think it's because the wheel's so large. The wheel was a little smaller. All right, don't be afraid to use the eraser either. Just take a brush. Here in Krita, at least you hit E and you can use an eraser. You can change that up a little bit if you want to add additional sections that raise up, perhaps, or whatever. You could do that. You want to add a roof scoop, do that. I think you get where this is going. You can do all kinds of different little flowy lines. And just keep building up your lines here because these are basically contour lines is more or less what they are. A lot of hard surface shapes included, not just vehicles. Contour lines are kind of the main thing, the name of the game. So doing these little side orthographic drawings, you can go pretty far with them. If you later on want to try doing the like front and back view and all that, just remember to use symmetry for that. Wherever it went, somewhere in here. There it is. And so you can always, you know, line. You could even line up with the drawing itself. You know, straighten it out first if you have a little bit of a tilt to it, but you can always line up to it later on and just say like, here's this, and then here's the top of the vehicle, right? So should use a line tool maybe to line that up, but you can see we kept it straight out, right? I'm a little bit high on the bottom one there. But basically, you can start lining things up, and now you can start imagining them from the front. You say, here's a roof scoop. Oh, that's the top of the roof, isn't it? Not the roof scoop. The roof scoop would be above that then, somewhere right here. Okay, and then where's the bottom window start here? So window would go out something like this. All right, pretty easy stuff overall. I mean, nothing too crazy here, right? A lot of you guys can manage this, no problems. Change how the overall vehicle might look or uh, look or just add details to it basically if needed. Anyways, I'm not trying to finish a full drawing here, but I think you get the idea. You can also start to figure out like how your headlights might look. It's a good idea sometimes to just do the headlights, turn symmetry off. Just do the headlights by themselves sometimes. Figure out like, different designs you might want with those, whether you want to do things that are more rounded and or square. You can do them in isometric or perspective or flat even. And just little subtle changes, you know, those basically the same design, but kind of a big effects on it. Just play around with your ideas quite a bit. You know, if you want to add the lamps in it, you can start to figure these things out. You'll figure out more as you block in because what we're doing here is really loose. If we want 3 there or 2 here, and 2 here, maybe do something like that. Who knows? Um, but you can start to figure out all your ideas like super fast. Like, look how much time we've spent on this. None at all. So I'm going to go ahead and save this and put it on the desktop. I'm going to do a PNG file so I can save layers. There's a little trick about that in Krita. So we'll say this is a car on desktop. Okay. Nope, not PNG, sorry, PSD. It's PSD file. So that's the Photoshop format, and we'll put it overwrite this one vehicle. Okay, and the trick about PSD, at least for Krita, is that you can only use layers and blend modes here. If you have like filter layers or text or anything like that, it'll complain. If you see a little warning box pops up, it's going to tell you what it can't do, basically. And so eventually you go over to Blender, jump into a side view, like right orthographic. So you can hit Alt while orbiting, press Shift A, create image reference, go load up that image. And now you can actually just use the PSD file, which is great. We're going to take the opacity on this. We're going to drop it down here and we're going to line this thing up. You see it's rotated. And that's what I was saying. I probably need to fix that in Krita maybe a little bit. And so for the most part, I'm just going to try to get the body lined up the way I think it should be. Okay. I'm going to kind of ignore the wheels a little bit and I'm going to push it backwards. Okay. And the only reason is because I want to lock this now. Visibility under this drop down, under this panel here, object properties, visibility, make it unselectable. We can't move it by accident now. If we need to get a hold of this thing, we can give it a new name if we want reference. And now it's over here. So we'll have to select that if we want to change like the opacity and stuff. But you have to use the outliner. You can't select it here anymore. Including if you want to hide it, you got to hide it up here. At least I think you do. Yeah. Oh, you can shift H and still do it. Okay, so you can still hide it. All right, now create a plane. This is the easiest way to get started. Create a plane, M, merge at center, single vertex. All right. These are contour lines, remember? So we can now start by tracing contours of whatever it is we're trying to create. And keep these things a lot simpler than you probably think they should be at first. Just trace and then try to match your vertex counts. as well. And then at the very end, you can press F if you want to join that one together. You don't have to create a new object or anything. You hit Shift D and duplicate a um, a single vertex, not two of them. And now you can actually do that. You can also just go through and try to match the vertex counts throughout your um, card here. And then what eventually will happen is you'll kind of hit where you need to hit with the overall shapes and forms as you pull these things apart, basically. You see, like we skipped one here. We probably don't want to do that. So we'll try to line them up with each other a little bit. And we still have a lot of work to do. This is just the beginning of it, right? So we have to figure out how we're going to make everything look exactly the way we want it. And that's going to take a little bit of time to get used to doing, basically. You're still going to go through the process of modeling vehicles, almost no different than any other tutorial at this point. Okay. There's a lot of car modeling videos out there, and they all pretty much go through the same process. So, and it's best to try to not use subdivision until you absolutely are towards the end, in my opinion. There's a different way that I kind of work, which is more complicated. It's for beginners, anyways. It's going to be like it's going to cause you a lot of frustration, but it's where you apply a subdivision first and you keep modeling on top of that. But it can get a little squirrely because once you have more vertices, it's harder to control things and it takes longer. So just try to model everything as much as you can, and then do these little contour lines. And before you know it, you're pretty much done for the most part. You're going to increase resolutions and you're going to increase the amount of vertices as you go through the process. So these two are going to cross each other. So I'm just going to duplicate and start a new one here. Start extruding, pressing E to do this, right? Try to hold any curves if we get them. We'll have to add more edges later, I'm sure. Okay, and sometimes it can be hard to see the vertices, but you'll get through it, I'm sure. And I'm gonna go to this side over here real quick. Just start these ones. So we're gonna have to do something. I kind of skipped a step, but we're gonna go do it in a second here. But basically, that's good for now. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we got. We've done. Let's take that reference. We'll go back to its properties, make it selectable, so I can go ahead and push it back even further, and then lock it again, so it's out of the way. This is what we're doing, though. We're creating more or less the drawing it with vertices. So I need wheels though, because I need to line up to them. So Shift A, create a cylinder. We can use 32 segments for now. It's fine. We're gonna RX90 or RY90, and that rotates it 90 degrees. So you press R and Y90. That'll do that like so. I'm gonna line these up to the green line here at the bottom. So when I place that image, I was looking for that as well. If we want the exact same size tire, we can get the exact same size tire, or we can make it slight bit bigger, perhaps if we wanted. Depends on how you want to go about designing your vehicle, of course. Slight bit bigger, I think, always looks nice. They're not going to line up in the front view, so I'm just going to align the right sides here. Okay, and I'm going to scale them inwards real quick. That might misalign them a bit, but till we get about the thickness I want for these tires anyways. And so you could use real world scales if you wanted to, if you wanted to start scaling this thing out from the start. All you would do is you'd use like a reference cube. Of course, we don't have any scale because we drew this, but you can start setting dimensions here. So if you know you made a vehicle and you wanted it to be, I don't know, 11 feet long or something, there you go. You can do things like that, and then you change your reference image to the same size as this cube, basically, and you'll have everything at scale. And you can use real world tire scales as well if you need to, or sizes. We did not do all of this yet, so let's go ahead and finish it real quick. We'll start pulling it out, and then we'll call it here in this video, anyways. So I'm gonna extrude this one out a little bit. It has a little bit of a curve there. Of course, you need to maybe draw these a little bit more detailed. Take your time with them, not fly through it like I did. But you can come up with some really cool designs. have everything look nice and line up with each other. And let's delete that one for a second. And you'll have less problems trying to at least model things from the side. You're going to work on this through the whole process, right? Like you're going to keep refining things as you're working. They're not all going to be perfect. So S and Z and 0, we can flatten all those out. Just make a big straight line. I was just trying to get the vertex count we need. So for there, we're started there. I'm going to duplicate this one for now and just start. Actually, we'll move it first before we start extruding it. I want it to be somewhere right here, going up along with the tire. Okay. And so, you know, just keep it simple, trace it out as much as you need to. We'll take it back down to here. These ones kind of join together. So we could delete that one maybe and take these two and press F and just join them. Right. So we got that going on now. Something like so. All right. All right. So let's do the back one now. Same idea. We can make things more perfect if we want or less perfect. It's up to you. I don't like where that one was positioned. Let's move it there. Let's move that one there. I think it's a little too low res right there now. Let's put this one here then. And just keep going. And I'm gonna do another one here. And you can do these as separate individual pieces. And there's a reason I want to do this because you can use proportional edit and set it to connected only. And now when you do a proportional edit, you can mouse wheel in and out. You can change things in this manner as well, where you can like rotate things and use proportional edit to get some interesting curves and stuff going if you wanted to. All right. So there's a reason for doing that because you're still technically you're designing this thing. It's not a set in stone vehicle. So you have to think about every little piece, every little curve, every little detail you're going to add and how they're going to line up and how they're going to behave and all that. Because you can see here, this is our origin point, the center origin point. So our vehicle is really flat right now. We're going to move these out to the side a little bit more. And so as we start pulling these pieces out, we're going to do this as well. We can hit L if they're not connected, then it'll select only that edge perhaps. You can see these are connected, so I'm going to delete that edge real quick. So we can focus on just this one for now and start doing that. So there we go. We got that one's right below the window. So the window would probably be about, yeah, here. Maybe, who knows? So we could take the window, select it, pull it out, and this is where you can do things like Control Shift S and add a little bit of a skew to something perhaps. So you can start doing numbers like that. And this is kind of like the center of the vehicle, I think. So we'll leave it there and we won't touch that too much. Um, all right, so the wheel well here, I'm going to separate this by pressing Y. You can rip it as well. Okay, if you want to separate things real quick, that's another thing you could do instead of deleting edges. But basically, we'll start getting it all lined up. And I'll let your imagination take over from this point on where you can go with this. There's only a couple things that I think I want to play around with more before I do a video on, which is using the sculpting tools to kind of refine your mesh. I think could be quite useful, especially with face sets. But I haven't really, I'm not gonna say I've mastered that yet. So it's kind of a thing that I still want to investigate a little further. And let's see, where's this one at? Towards the bottom of the tire here. Okay. It's pretty much, I feel like I got like a F40 kind of vibe going or something. So probably don't need all of these to be perfectly in line with each other, but definitely doesn't hurt. They get them close-ish at least. Do I have one up here for this? Oh, I do, right there. Okay. Yeah, that one would be kind of narrow, and it would be like a bevel going down, perhaps. So this front hood section, this is going to go all the way. This section here, I'm going to duplicate this actually and send it out this way. So it's very flat, basically, is what's happening here. So I'm just going to duplicate those and move them out. Okay. So we can get started with flat if we wanted to, like a flat area. And that's cool because later on you just press F and fill these. Sometimes your normals will be backwards. Be careful of that. I have backface culling on, which does work, but you could always use face orientation as well if you want to do that. I just don't care for the blue and the red all that much. You can change the blue and the red in the theme, by the way, which could be useful. But it doesn't really bother me to just use backface culling instead. And so I'll turn face orientation off. But now we can just press F, and as long as we have matching vertices, we can go through this process and start doing some numbers like this. And start getting some things going here, basically, like this edge here for the most part. Like I like it for the most part, but this one's kind of in front of it. So let's do it in sections then. I'm just gonna press E and Z and pull that down a bit. And so we can kind of go through and line things up like this as well if we wanted to. You could see we don't have the vertices matching as well as I thought I would have in this area, so we'll have to change those a little bit. But we can start doing things like this, guys, and we can start modeling our project car here. We do like a loop cut in it and add a little bit of depth to it. Maybe this is up higher. We could press GG twice and hit E and then F to make it even with either side, like the edge at the bottom or the edge at the top. So when we GG twice, we can do that. We're gonna stop short, pull it out a little, do something like that. Maybe I don't know. Okay, so now eventually we'll be able to see these might start working together, but if they don't match, they don't match. And so we'll have to take an edge possibly. We could subdivide it by selecting it, right click and subdivide, or we can loop cut and then left click and right, or excuse me, just left click. We'll get an extra vertex and we can start doing that number as well. We can dissolve with Control X. If we want to add more, just that loop cut works out pretty well usually. And we might need a loop cut here. So yeah, polymodeling, guys. That's what we're doing. Balance things out heavily because if you're going to convert this into a subdivision mesh, what's going to end up happening is that you need to have perfect little squares, or if you're going to use the sculpting tools, I'll do a video on later. It's going to wreak havoc. You can Alt Z that as well. It's going to wreak havoc on your model. You're not going to be able to use them very well. It's like the smooth tools and everything just go wild. So you can see how these are like big rectangles. You're trying to create more like perfect little squares, and that's why having lower resolution a lot of times can be also useful because we can balance these out to be more square like a lot easier. And then just add a loop cut through there, maybe that'll get us closer to what we want. And so we can just keep doing that over and over and over again, basically balancing everything, moving them around. Press space. Well, in case you don't have that going. Uh, key map, I think. Yeah, space bar action. You can change it to tools if you want. That's why you don't see my tools over there. Press space bar, you'll get move. All your tools that are usually on that T panel over here. But this can be quite useful because instead of having to hit G and R and X and whatever all the time, now you can just move around, which is pretty good. Just kind of line things up the best you can. Just start working the mesh basically for the most part is what you're doing. Some areas you're gonna have to start thinking about edge flow and how you want it to actually behave. In this case, I don't know if I really want all of these kind of running back up to the top up here. I might want some running down, so like staying in line with each other basically. So maybe leaving these more like this could be beneficial. But I'll have to figure out how to make those perfect little quads later on, perhaps, which might be a little bit problematic. But for the most part, it's not too bad. Leaving a lot of these things like straight up and down can also be useful. All right, so let's just keep going through this for a little bit. We'll try to get the rest of the main body at least worked out, and then we'll have to call the video there, I think. So you can see these don't come out quite as far as maybe I wanted them to. We could just do a fill through there, and you can see it doesn't fill quite right because of the just different little things going on here. Oh, missed a vertex again. I missed a lot of vertices in this apparently, or it's not filling correctly. One of them. It's not filling correctly, I guess. I don't know. There you go. Did that time. And so this one has a vertex there. We'll get rid of that for now. We'll play around with it more later. Okay. This is way back there still. Oh, okay. Let's pull that out. Here, line with the wheel. See, these don't line up either. This one, I think I would rather have, yeah, actually have it there like that. So I'll add a vertex for it. Might have to move it around and balance these things later. But for the most part, yeah, this is the process, guys. This is what you do. It's a repetitive process sometimes, but it's worth it. Like this one, I'm going to extrude in. You can see all of those are backwards. Alt N, flip them. Okay, and we'll see. That should probably go out a little bit further, I think. Like that. Okay. So eventually these will connect together. You can see, once again, I've messed up my vertex counts. You can mouse wheel up with this too to create two of them. Grab both of those and GG twice. You can slide two at the same time, which is kind of fun. Press F there, F, 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 and then all the way through. Probably not going to match these up with each other. I'll probably just delete that one there because these should be kind of in line with each other, right? Like that. So probably just delete that one. Don't think nothing about it. Delete the edge, not the vertices, because I'm going to take that one to there. Pull that one down a little bit, GG twice. These should match, I think. Hopefully. Been having a little bit of an issue with that, apparently. That's an extra vertex out here for some reason. All right, so let's do a loop cut here. F through there, F, 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 and I don't know if I want to add one there. Yeah, I guess we could add a loop cut there. It's fine. We'll have to go back and just keep working it, right? It's the name of the game at this point. Use car references while you go through this process. It's helpful because you can't usually think of all the cool details that vehicles have. And they do have a number of really cool designs out there, obviously. That little tiny details that you might want to borrow, some of them at least. It takes years and years of training to master, I think, design in vehicles, but auto manufacturers, they design vehicles rather fast sometimes. And they do it in different ways too. Like they still use clay, they still do drawings, they still do a number of different things. And you just have to you can see like maybe I do something like this here. That's a little bit tricky, that area usually, but I don't know what I'm going to do there yet, so I'm just going to do that for now. But they still do a number of different ways of designing. They use CAD programs. They use every tool under the sun basically, and so you'll have to figure out um, what's going to work for you and what's not going to work for you when it comes to doing these vehicles. Sketching and going straight to the blockout like this is, I think, extremely fast and efficient, and something I think most guys are going to want to do. But if you want to try playing around with doing sketches and sculpts and stuff like that, you could. And I don't think it's as efficient in every circumstance, anyways. You know what? Let's just do a loop cut there. Keep that simple for now. And we'll do a triangle here until I figure out what else I'm going to do here. I just turned it into a quad, by the way. But I feel like something's misaligned here and I want to make it probably better. So we'll do that down to there. So merge to at selected or whatever, merge to at last. Yeah, and you're actually going to have to spend some time balancing things out. That's the name of the game here now. You have to spend the time doing it, unfortunately. It'd be a little bit different if you're working from a vehicle blueprint per se, because you're able to just kind of, model what you see for the most part. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. I think I need two in there now. Yeah, it's a little bit better. We got like a crazy little hole thing going on here. So let's yeah, but the blueprints can be a little bit easier because you got like the top and the side view and the front view, whatever else view you got. It works out quite well, anyways. So this one I'm going to drag through here and then pull it back down to that one. So we only need one in it now. Let's see, we just fill that in. It's coming together little by little, anyways.
And can Alt S and scale along normals. Before we get too carried away, I do want to, oh, actually, I got to finish this center. Um, you do want to try to mirror this thing as soon as possible so you can feel out how wide it's going to be, right? Like we're all over the map with it right now, but we don't want to accidentally create something that like a person couldn't actually sit in, like if the door was too small, things like that, like you need to think about those things as well. They come into play, right? You don't have to trace the window necessarily, um, but a lot of times it helps. Apparently, I can't grid fill it because it's missing some vertices. Needs two more, I think. If you have enough vertices or basically they're even a number of vertices, you can usually grid fill things. Connecting edge loops overlap. Let's AM merge by distance real quick. Okay, we'll have to think about that one later, I guess. That would be the A pillar here. There's like no window in the front right now. It's kind of interesting. We'll just fill through there and we'll do that number for now. So now we got that. Let's see what we do here. Okay, so we can fill that one. That will go forward and in. These are a quad. I'm going to make them a triangle for now. Bring that in a little bit. This should fill through here. Oh, these are backwards. Let's fix that. Someone was asking how mine looks semi-transparent. I have no idea. That's probably the theme I'm using, but I didn't do that on purpose when I made that theme. So what exactly it's doing or how or why, I don't know. I'm just going to fill that for now. Oh, we had one up there. Okay, that's being really edge. Dissolve that. No, we want that vertex. We just want it down further. Okay, there we go. We got it finally going. So yeah, we'll go through this process over and over and over until we get something going that we like, and we'll have something we like, right? That we can use. And so these should match, or close to it, anyways. Why are those so far off? Every one of these is off. And you can't GG twice, I guess, all those together. So that one's like way back there. Okay. Subdivide that one and pull it up a little. So that's got to go to there. Great poly modeling. It won't take you that long, though, surprisingly. Once you get used to doing this, it really kind of goes fast. And the more accurate you're drawing, obviously, the better of a time you'll have as well, because you have less stuff to fix. But basically, we go through this process now, and when we're done, we're done. So I want to loop cut here for this section. For that, take that down like that. We'll pull it straight through, actually, and we'll bring that down like that. Merge that to there. It's nothing really in this space. It's kind of empty. So it's going to be some kind of grid area, some kind of fill basically will take place here. It's like beveled or something, a little bit curvy. So we can just imagine another line in here if we wanted to. Go through this area and try to match her vertices, and that'll make life easier. Doing things like that. We have one here at the top as well, which would be, it should be just slightly below the other one, which I've not really been doing. Like they shouldn't be perfectly in line, but man, I really am missing a lot of those. Am I not? There you go. We're going to dissolve this edge for a second so it turns flat. And I can do that. Did I mess those ones up too? Jeez. All over the place. All right. Fill through there. Loop cut to there and join. All right. We got something going now. It's starting to look like a car. I'm going to do a loop cut in that one. Those are slanted a little bit, which is not always a bad thing, but sometimes it's not what you want either. I think that one I'll leave. Yeah, I think we need another. Some kind of other edge going through here. And I don't want to keep running them through the way they've been going. So we're going to try a little surgery here real quick. Do like a knife cut. Just right across there to there. Pull it forward a little. Yeah, it's a triangle, but it's okay. Delete that edge. Pull that one back. So these two will line up now at least. We'll merge that one. Subdivide this, or we could actually add a loop cut. There you go. Pull that forward a bit, pull that back a bit. And there we go. Now we got something. It makes a little bit more sense. This is also going to need a little edge through here, perhaps. So that should fill between these two. And this should match, hopefully. Okay, close enough. Didn't match. This is close enough to bounce that out a little. Like I was saying, less is more on this. Otherwise, you end up in this weird situation where you're just doing way too much when it comes to these vertices. Like it's already getting pretty dense, but it's not. It's still manageable at this point. Like if you just go crazy with it, you're done for, I think. So like later on, you could do like a loop cut here. Check this out. You can press F, and like you can literally just do things like that and say all the way down here, delete these faces. F and F. F. Oh, apparently we got issues again. Let's do a loop cut there, and then do F F. There you go. We'll work it back into the body here, perhaps. We can add a loop cut. Before we do that, let's add a loop cut. Alt S it out. Do something like that, maybe. We'll work it to a triangle here for now. And so this is where you can start changing your shapes and your forms a little bit. Like if you want to do some things like that, maybe take this edge. I'm going to line it like that and then line it to the bottom and just pull it down on Z. Align right, align bottom. That's the machine tools add-on, by the way. If you don't use machine tools, definitely get it. It has features in it that you want for car modeling, like surface slide. It's huge, in my opinion. You're gonna want to utilize that. This here does not have enough edges, in my opinion, and I don't like ending it on a that kind of setup there. I don't like that, but we'll fix that later if we had to. All right, this should grid fill, I think. Maybe. Let's pull this one forward, and then we'll dissolve this one, I think. And then now that should grid fill. Yeah. We can add or subtract the seed or the span, excuse me, not seed. Maybe once or twice, and then we can offset these. Try to find something that'll work here for us. Maybe a little bit better than what it did by default there. I really don't like any of those, so I'd probably just end up pressing F, filling it, and then start cutting it out if it's not working for me anyways. And I think that's because that triangle's at the front there, and it also apparently does not line up exactly the way I thought it did. 'Cause this one here needs to be moved back, and then we'll dissolve that one as well. Okay, still want to try to hold our curvature though, because I'm losing it. A little bit. Okay, I like that. Actually, I like this little dip in the back here as well. Let's see if I can pull all those in a little bit. Do that. And so you can start tweaking your panels now, like at this point. You can start saying, like, I'm gonna go off of the concept and just kind of play around with the things I like, start working them. And maybe we move that one in. You can do big fills at first just to see how things might look if they were kind of like flat in those areas. You might create you might create non-planar faces by accident, but sometimes it's still useful to do that just to get different ideas going at least. I'm just going to work these out to the front. Let's see. I can fill that one. Delete that one maybe. Pull that up. Okay, let's bring that one in and through. We'll stop here and we'll keep going. So we just fill all that. It's a little bit too abrupt, I would say. It's interesting, but it's not the look we're looking for, right? You could try dissolve, like doing a pure dissolve of something sometimes to see what happens there as well. I don't really care for any of that right there. I think I lost something in here that I want. And so I'm just going to do knife cut real quick. So you can leave things as n-gons, right? Like at first, and then later on decide whether you're going to close them out maybe with a triangle or something else, you know. I'm going to pull that one in, I think. Could add a loop cut, but that's going to add more geo. You can use normals as well. So you can use normal and you can use the edge normal itself to pull that down at that angle if you wanted. So you can do some fun stuff like that. Press F and F. Pull that all the way through. I'm trying to get to the center here sooner rather than later for this video. It doesn't mean that you're always going to do that. Go back to global coordinates, by the way. Switch fast with machine tools. Machine tools is great in a lot of ways. Trust me. You want it, use it. Um, yeah, we're just trying to get something kind of going here. That's I don't know how those ones got pushed forward. It's weird. All right, so let's just say we have that for now. We can work it later. Looks more like a truck now almost. Yeah. The El Camino idea wouldn't have been a bad idea. Then. Doing like a little chop back or whatever. Kind of like it flattening out right here. But there's no depth to that fender. It's like none. So, you could grab the whole area and just do E and S and scale in towards the center, but we're going to start cutting into that tire now. The tire would have to be smaller a little bit at least. So there's little things like that that you can do as well. This whole area, we're going to balance. This center section, I think I'm going to do the same thing here with the center line, but we don't need all of it. We're going to delete that. So we can grab this area, pull this in just for a second, and just imagine that this is part of it real quick. Going down this way, get rid of that vertex, and then maybe PG twice that up. We'll merge that to there. So that's higher than that side, so we'll align to the, oh, maybe it's below it. We'll just align them real quick, basically. Just like we did with that roof scoop, right? We can kind of go through this process. Whoop, and delete that. So I'm just going to fill that real quick all the way through there. It's a little trick. If you have the loop tools add-on, it comes with Blender, you just have to enable it. You can flatten with this. It'll flatten along a normal, which is great. So, and I don't know what I did exactly here wrong, but I did something wrong. So we're going to delete the edge. We take these two, combine them, refill that there. Okay. And so now we're good. Bring that all the way through, press F, and fill that. There you go. So you want to push that in at like a little bit like that, maybe. I still don't like this abruptly ending here like that. I feel like it needs to just be down further. Okay. Are we ready to symmetrize or I got to do the back still? I got to do the back still. All right. It's close. Not there yet. We'll take that over all the way. Just gonna add some loop cuts real quick. And we'll merge that to there, merge that to there. I'm just gonna finish this section off super fast like this. And we'll merge all those down here as a triangle for now. We'll work it out later. It's probably going to do, like, you can do knife cuts all day long with this stuff as well. If you want to start running topology in different directions, you can do this. Like, that's not a big deal. This here would turn into a quad at least. That one. The other one still remains a triangle for now, unless we were to create another edge going out. But now you start getting in this weird area where everything tries to get too dense, and it's not necessarily a good thing, right? So might want to wait on those. Which which not necessarily entirely do I want to wait on those. You can take a resolution up when you do a subdivision, and then you can work it back down as well. So like you don't have to keep it high, you can take it back down lower. And it'll just kind of help you out with the curvatures and things. But for the most part, I think that's that. We can actually symmetrize it right now if we wanted to. See the symmetry line here? A lot of times, one of the easiest ways to do this is just to take it a little over the symmetry. The origin point's your symmetry line. And you can now use something like a mirror modifier, or in my case, I'm going to use mesh machine. It's symmetrize, turn remover, doesn't center off. And get something like that. So it should symmetrize it very quickly. You'll be able to merge some of these things at the center if possible. I'm going to delete that edge, or excuse me, delete that edge, not the vertices. So I can merge these all together at center. Dissolve that. There you go. That's cleaner now. I want to take these and Alt S them up. Start doing something like that maybe. Yeah, extremely quick, easy way of working. All right, we are underway. Not near finished, but we're underway for sure. So this one's kind of irritating me. I'm not sure what I want to do in here. 2 loop cuts. I'm going to do vertex snapping. Don't forget you can vertex snap. It makes life easier. So when we pull that out, extrude and snap along the way, and then the bottom ones we can just merge. Middle one as well. Save us a little bit of time there. Huh? So you can do that all over the place as well, like this area here perhaps. But you could also just skip one, press F. You see what I'm saying? And maybe get away with doing F there and maybe a triangle there for now. F, F. That one went way too far back, I think. Hmm. Pull that there. Delete that edge for a second. Yeah, we'll work that out later for now. Keep going. Try to keep the momentum going. I think that's a big thing that a lot of guys suffer with is that they start working on one of these projects and they start getting like caught up in a detail or something and they start slowing down. So try to keep the momentum going as much as possible and just keep moving. Just keep doing whatever you got to do on here and keep moving. And then just eventually you'll find ways of working it all out at some point or another. It'll go a little bit easier. Go through the process with some purpose, some momentum, right? Take that one single edge back here, or 2 edges. Yeah, you can see some of those are just kind of flowing in weird ways. So we would want to take our time on it. We can symmetrize it again if needed. You can see that one doesn't have the loop cuts it needs, so now we'll do those. It does work up to this point here. More than likely, it's going to go all the way through. And we could probably just merge these like so for now. This one might go a little bit higher, and eventually it might split like this, okay, and then go out all the way through, something like that. Right, and now you get to determine what kind of shape changes you want, really. Like you finish the back too, obviously. We're going to cut the video here soon, but I don't want to work on this all day, unfortunately. Got other things actually I have to do, so. But hopefully it gives you a little bit of an idea of what goes into this possibly, like how you might go about doing it. So when you watch the other videos now on YouTube of like the time lapse car modeling videos, they're actually really good once you understand kind of what's going on with them. You'll see that a lot of times they're just creating this and then they're more or less subdividing it. Like that's kind of the name of the game half the time. So, and then they might work with the subdivision pieces later. This would not be a big section through here like this. Let's see. That makes that a quad, and that would turn that end-on into a quad. So we can straighten that one out. Straighten that one out a little. Okay. If you're wondering why I'm trying to do everything in quads as much as possible, or triangles or simple n-gons, nothing too complex, we're going to merge this whole piece down here. A and merge by distance. No, not all of it. Merge everything, collapse. No. If you do this cleverly enough, you can hit Control 1 or Control 2, and you can subdivide it and shade it smooth real quick. Just see kind of if it's going the way you expect it to. If you have errors in it, turn subdivision off in edit mode. Like we got a double edge right here somehow, or double vertices or something. And that's, well, there was an artifact in it. I don't know. Maybe it's not there now. Okay, I thought we had a double edge there anyways. But we can go through and start tweaking things and seeing, maybe a triangle will work better somewhere. You can use triangles, you can use n-gons. There's nothing wrong with that. You can use quads all day as well. Um, just trying to figure out like if it's going to work. Because when you look at your subdivision model, you can turn optimal display off. This is your actual topology that you're looking at. And so if something's not right, it's not right. But a lot of times this stuff is a lot simpler to look for issues this way, like where you make a really simplified mesh and then you start trying to figure like an end pole here, for example, wouldn't be a bad thing. End pole's a vertex with 3 edges coming out of it, and E poles are 5 or more coming out of a single vertex. You see E pole here, end pole, end pole, E pole, E pole, end pole. That's probably bad topology, right? So you want to start looking for things like that at least and start thinking about how you can manage them. A lot of times if you're going to do subdivision anyways, that is, you need to think about those things quite heavily. And cars generally work best with subdivision because they have smooth, curvy lines a lot of times. Not all of them, if like you're doing like sedans or city buses and things like that. A lot of times you can just straight poly model them and you don't need subdivision at all. But you certainly want to look for these things as you're working. See, we got another n-gon I just created there. May or may not work out well there. I don't think I like that one, but may want to try other reduction methods as well. Like we could try doing like to a quad here. So these, we're going to dissolve them for just a second, but basically it would go through this area and then it would do a 3-to-1 reduction. And that's just going to cause you to have 2 end poles. And not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but you can see it looks like that. And it also creates the E poles out here. So you don't want these usually on your edges like this. Like E poles and end poles, you don't want them on like contour edges basically. You want to have them offset. So you would eventually bevel that and then set that maybe shape to 1 or leave it at 0.5, but that pushes that pole at least off to the side. And so that's good, but that means you're gonna have to bevel a bunch of stuff probably earlier than you wanted to, and it can get a little bit nasty, but you'll have to play around with it and see what you can get going. You can twice, GG slide a little bit, GG slide a little bit back. It starts to flatten out surfaces, but you can also use it as like a smoothing a curve effect if you do it one at a time like that. There's a set flow add-on as well. So if you ever want to try using the set flow add-on, you just set flow, and a lot of times that'll help out as well. Sometimes more so than others, but a lot of times it does work. So set flow is pretty cool. As for right here, I don't really like what's going on still, but I guess it's better than it was. You can see that e-pull happens right there. So we'll have to fix that later. Big e-pull there. Ngons, by the way, five-sided ngon will create e-pull like so. So anytime you use an ngon, it's creating an e-pole when it subdivides, and anytime you create a triangle, it will turn into an impole. So just keep that in mind as you're working and balance things. And if you got to hold something sharp, like some kind of corner sharp, you may do it at this point and try to hold it sharp, and then just add the additional geo to hold everything in shape. But you may do it later on after a subdivision. A lot of guys will do something like this, a model like this, anyways. And then what'll end up happening is that they'll actually I'm gonna do a loop cut through there real quick just to get that kind of solved a little bit better, perhaps, maybe. But they'll do the base mesh here, and they'll just use this as a guide to kind of like re-topo over it so that they can go through and have an easier time adjusting their curves. And then when they have to do the details, they'll do it on the re-topo mesh using like vertex groups, things like that. That's actually a really good way of working. And there's nothing wrong with that because you can see you don't have to like cut out the windows just yet, right? You can make sure the window shape is correct, the panel shapes are correct, and then you can worry about making everything the actual model itself that you're going to end up using in a game or whatever. You can worry about making that later on. So just worry about design, the main design elements here, like the big shapes, the big forms. Like if this is just too slanted upwards, like maybe we can bring this curve here. Oh, by the way, when you select something, if you hit Shift H, you can hide everything else and you can go straight to proportional edit as well. So if you just want to try to bring a whole section up with proportional edit, Alt H back out, and you can see we just brought that up a little bit. And maybe we need to do that more in this area as well. Maybe we can select all these faces and these verts here. We hit Shift H. Maybe we just want to bring this whole section right here down a little bit, right? So we Alt H back, boom. There we go. There's also an add-on called Pinverts that does something kind of similar to that, um, which I haven't been doing. I haven't used enough to keep it on all the time, but it's a really cool little add-on. If you want to check that out, it's on my or excuse me, my website in the resources section. Got a link to the Gumroad for it. So Pinverts adds just like a little button and a hotkey, so you don't. It doesn't hide the mesh. It just locks it all, like turns it red and locks it or whatever. But yeah, balancing this out definitely would be worthwhile, I think. I don't know if doing a cut like that would help us much. Seems like it would, but yeah, so there's like some poles and stuff in there. All right, so that's that in a nutshell. Now here's just a little friendly note. I wanted to make a video all about using the sculpting tools, but I'm not super familiar with exactly how to use all of them yet. I haven't gone through a whole car project with it anyways. I have a feeling it's going to work well on not just car projects, but hard surface shapes later on too. So this might be of interest to you if you're just doing more hard surface stuff in general. I'm going to keep that one running forward, I think. And because it's running forward like that, I want to keep it going forward. Maybe just all that. Add a loop cut here and then join those. Let's see if I can't kind of work this into the shape I want here, maybe. All right. Anyways, so I'd have to keep modeling that. But real quick, just a quick mention. If you select some mesh, for example, and you go into sculpt mode, and we bring out the little sculpt tools here. All the tools you'll have to modify individually, but like say the smooth tool, right? You go to brush, you can set auto masking for this. So you can do it by topology, right? Um, you can do it by face sets, you do it by mesh boundary or face set boundary even, right? These are quite useful. Also front face only is useful. So the smooth tool here is actually a Laplacian smooth, all right? And Laplacian smooth is pretty awesome because if you don't know what it does, it basically like averages out based off the boundary or whatever. So when you do Control V and you smooth Laplacian, you'll see only like that center vertex is affected because the boundary is kind of ignored for the most part. And so you can flatten out surfaces doing this. Matter of fact, if you bump up the iterations, you'll see kind of it's kind of doing something like that anyways, which is cool. But in sculpt mode, the smooth Laplacian is right here. And that's useful still because it's more or less like using a sander, right? Like you can flatten faces out with it if you wanted to. But there's also a surface one which tries to preserve the volume. And this is kind of like a relax tool, which is really cool because when you click and you drag, you'll see it kind of does something, but it's hard to tell what it's doing. Crank the strength up, make sure you set those on, and you can use it larger. And yeah, it acts like kind of like a little relax tool. It will lose volume, but it smooths everything down really good. So later on, when you're doing the final stages and you're trying to fix your shading and whatnot, this is perfect for that. Even though, you might be like you can see, like over here, it's really bad. You might be changing the shape a little bit and losing some of your details. But if you're picky about it, you can do just very specific areas and start to work out your shading issues as well, which is I thought was really cool. But I'll have to do a video on that later in detail. But for now, we'll just keep going with what we got. And one other thing is that you can use the face sets, right? So if you select something in edit mode, which where I was starting with this thing, let's say we're just doing this area, right? We want to smooth all this area. We can go back to sculpt mode and we can do face sets, initialize or set face set from edit mode selection. Boom, now we got a face set. We've already set our smooth tool up so that face sets are our boundaries. As long as we start in the face set, we can work only in that area and it won't affect anything outside of that area. So it's like a mask system, basically. It's basically what you're doing with it. You're using it as a masking system. So really cool because now, you come through here and you say, I want to go back to sculpt mode and I set face set. And now I want to use smooth Laplacian. And I just want to make this really large and start flattening this because that's what it's going to do. It's going to start flattening the surfaces. And it's gonna do that for the most part. It's not gonna get it perfect though, because it's just the way it behaves, but it tries to flatten the surface anyways, which is nice. But that's not to say you can't use other tools. Like if you want to inflate something, for example, like say we go to the hood and we just want to inflate the hood through this area, right through here. Okay, so we go back to sculpt mode, we set a face set from the edit mode selection, and now we do the inflate tool. We have to change the settings here for this one. I'll turn those on. And if we want to just inflate, like say the back half of the hood or something, right? So we can start doing things like that as well, which is kind of cool. And then we can use other tools as well, such as like the scrape tool, right? And once again, you got to set it for each one though. That's the only annoying part about it. Um, I guess you could save some brush presets with all that set, but you want to start scraping it like that, that's fine. You can start doing that. If you want to work another section later on, you can use clay strips potentially, turn tip brownness up, and do face sets as well would be helpful probably. And maybe front faces only as well, so you don't damage mesh if there's some behind it. We'll do negative here. So we can start to do clay strips as well, potentially, in some of these areas. Because it's such a low resolution mesh, remember, we're working on this. We're not working on the end result there. We end up getting some pretty cool results like this going, perhaps, but we can always turn it back to positive, so we don't have to keep hitting control. And we can try to work this out as well. And so you're starting to see where those quads can become extremely important because anytime you have just an in pull or something happening in here that's not quite right, it could be really problematic. And so you do want to take your time to go through and make sure you're setting quads up appropriately and doing proper thicknesses and keeping everything as squared as possible, basically, right? Because we don't want an e pull or something there, so we have to run an additional edge out, maybe. Maybe we round that one out that way a little. Okay, now we're getting the idea where these possibilities are anyways. We can start doing some pretty cool stuff. And you do have to nudge things around and flip them around and do all that fun stuff like that. So I don't know if there is much more to the sculpt mode tools. Like you can keep using them as needed, um, but you can symmetrize still. This isn't like using a multi-res or a remesher. Like we can still symmetrize if we see an issue. We're still modeling at the end of the day. So we're using the sculpt tools as a modeling assistant. We're not doing it as like a sculpt like we're used to maybe. I wanted to go all the way through there, so oh, I didn't grab the back half there. And I believe, let me see something real quick. If we go to face maps and attributes, position, UV maps, I wasn't sure if face sets are over here somewhere. They might be. I'm pretty sure there's an add-on that has face set layers, but it might be in the attributes here as like position or something. I don't know. Vertex vector, UV map. Not sure about that one. So I'm pretty sure there's an add-on for that though, which is would be awesome because then you could select like whole body panel sections and then switch over to like little details you want to smooth. Just it'd be pretty cool. It might even exist somewhere here in the sculpt area, but I'm not real sure about that, guys. So anyways, we'll leave that one alone then. That position changed. All right, whatever the case. So yeah, we can go through and which one are we using right now? Smooth inflation. Yeah, it's trying to flatten the surface as much as possible. So you just click, like you don't have to have a tablet or nothing special. This is really nice. And at some point you take this up, right? Like duplicate your mesh, hide one. You could take it up a level of subdivision. So press Control 1, take it level 1, apply this subdivision, go back to sculpt mode, and you'll see we now have this going on, right? And so we can continue to smooth at a higher resolution, perhaps, flatten things out maybe if needed. But we can, in certain areas, we can now add more details, perhaps, right? You see that one's getting a little squirrely. So let's do that very precisely instead. Let's do it right in this area, right there. Okay. Go back to sculpt mode, face sets, initialize face sets from selection mode. There you go. Probably could have went further back with it. Let's say we wanted to like, we could use clay strips maybe and try to do that in that area. Or we could try using the inflate tool as well if we want a curvier kind of effect maybe. But the inflate tool is really good in my opinion. And you can see it's not going to go outside of the face set, right? So we can do that number. We can go back to the smooth tool and instead of using inflation, use surface. Now we can just use surface smooth and kind of work it back together a little bit. Okay, so we can add a little fender kind of like that maybe. And we can just symmetrize it. There you go. Done. Cool, right? So I'll let you take it from there. How far you go with this is really up to you, but it's ultimately it's pretty cool. And you'll find a lot of use out of some of those tools anyway. So I'll check you out in the next video. Hope you enjoyed and take care, all right?